Hi, my name is Dragon. Today I am joined by Joseph Marino
Hello.
in a podcast session for my Keystone, More Than Just a Game, Understanding the Effects of Gaming on Mental Health, in which we will be diving a little bit more into Joe's personal life, his relationship with video games, and I guess his views on how it might influence other people's emotional health and how media depicts it. Joe, if you want to get us started by introducing yourself a little bit, like what year you are in college, what you studied, and I guess what just general relationship you have with video games.
Sure. Hi, my name is Joseph Marino. I'm a behavior and health senior in Sargent College with a minor in special education, and I'm going into social work. And my relationship with video games it's been a long one. I've been playing video games since I was 3. Like, my dad first introduced me when I was like really, really young. I'd watch him play like Halo. Like, I thought that was so fun. My dad's main rule was as long as there wasn't like bad language in the game, he'd let me watch. And I watched him play games like EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Command and Conquer, I believe it's called, like RTSs basically, and I loved it always. And then eventually, as soon as I was old enough to be able to kind of play the games on my own, I started to. I played like everything from like kids games to games with my dad, and I'd say like he's the biggest reason I play games. And I haven't really stopped. I've been playing games since I was 3, and I play games now when I'm 21. So
Well, that's awesome. I know in current society, the transition from non-technology users to technology users, the gap is still kind of there. So I think it's really wholesome that your dad introduced you to video games and you got a chance to play with him. I guess a lot of times parents don't really support their gaming habits. It's often frowned upon as like a waste of time or something that's more just a hobby, more so than like something you can like build off of. And so can you talk a little bit about that relationship with your father, how it's kind of influenced your gaming, and like how, I guess, you compare that to your peers who might not have had as like accepting parents?
yeah. I would say I made it sound a little almost nicer than it was. My dad definitely still was very like I was not allowed to play like video games whenever I wanted for free or anything like that. Like he definitely still I was on like a schedule I could play, and even a lot of the time he wouldn't let me watch me like you have to go to sleep. So he was always like putting my education first and making sure I was like on a track, but he definitely would let me enjoy it. And I think it was something he got a lot of escape from when he was younger, because like when he was a kid, video games were first coming out. Like he played like the original like Pac-Man, Pong, stuff like that, all the originals, and he loved them, and they were a big escape for him. So I think he wanted that for me as well. But yeah, I remember I used to have like parent locks on my Xbox where like I can only play like 4 hours in the week or something like that. I remember sitting there like late at night. I'd be trying to like guess the password because you get unlimited tries. And one like I was doing it so mindlessly that I would just like click buttons on the controller. One time I actually got in by accident, but I didn't remember what I had just hit. So I was like, oh, I have one chance at this. So I changed a bunch of settings like a little bit so we wouldn't notice. So I got some extra time. I'll always remember that. It was so funny. Never got back in again. It was a one-time thing. But so I really enjoyed that. I got my sister into it as well, and she played a lot of games with me. To this day, she still plays a ton of games. I lean like in my modern day gaming. I mostly lean towards either MMOs or MOBAs like League of Legends, stuff like that, or like community games with friends. But my sister always leans towards the Minecraft side of things. She likes the creative games like Terraria and Stardew Valley. That's what it's called.
Mhm.
So that's. And then my dad to this day still plays games. I remember I'm home over break and he was playing what's it called? Path of Exile, and he loves it.
Mm.
So that's been his style. But yeah, I think overall, my dad having basically his own childhood to back him up was able to really help make things reasonable for us. And I definitely, like I said, he by no means was it like a hands off, do whatever you want. So I
Sure.
appreciate that too. I think that's the best approach. Like I think you should allow your kids to have that like creative outlet and freedom and like enjoyment, but also like I've seen people, I've seen other like my friends who didn't have those rules and it affected them negatively overall. So I think you need some structure around the games, but I think I'm glad I was able to play video games more than not, to be honest.
So you've talked about a lot. I think there are three things I want to kind of touch upon. The first one will continue with the topic of family sort of thing, is that you've got your sister into it. And
Mhm.
so I kind of want to talk about, I guess, your social stratosphere. So I guess like your family dynamic around gaming, if you guys bond over gaming or if that's something you just all do like independently and it's just kind of something like it's not something that brings you together, or if it is. The second thing you mentioned is that your dad used video games as an escape. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, as that's usually what a lot of people use gaming for. And then the final thing is, I mean, I don't think you're a parent yet. You can
No,
correct me if I'm wrong.
no.
But what you talked about at the end with kind of like the balancing the creative outlet and enjoyment of video games with, I guess, the time management, self-restraint, like all of those different things. So let's just jump right back into it then. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what your family uses gaming for, or if like you guys use it as a bonding activity, or if it's just something you guys do independently? It's just something that defines you.
Um, I think it's both. Most notably, my mom doesn't play any video games. She's never played it. Like, I think once upon a time, I got her to play like Wii with us, but she hates it. Like it's really not fun for her. She's always just like doesn't like gaming. She's always had a very negative outlook on it, which is
Mm,
understandable. I think there was no like video games in her house when she grew up. She had one brother and her parents. There's just a four family household. None of them played games, so I guess when she met my dad, that was like a new thing to introduce for her.
mm,
I think me and my dad, I think bonded over games a lot more when we were younger than we do now. We talk about games, but we play much together.
mm.
We played a little bit of Valorant together when it first came out. He got me into it. It's just funny because he stopped playing, but I still play it now a bit with my friends. My sister, I think, and I played a bit more socially. She has like a really close knit group of friends she likes to keep in touch with through that. But
Mm.
she recently picked up League of Legends, which is a game I've been playing for a really long
Oh boy.
time. I know, so she always wants a little bit of help. I give her some like light coaching, some here and that. She loves it. But generally we don't play together a ton either. I usually try to get her into games I'm into. Like I was trying to get her to play Final Fantasy 14 with me, which is like the MMO I'm playing right now. But
Hmm.
she wasn't super interested. She kind of does her thing, and I respect that. But I think me and my video gaming is easier for my sister to bond with than my dad. I think me and my dad have a lot of other things to talk about nowadays.
Mm.
He does a lot of his own independent stuff. He has some cousins he plays with still, but generally, I think Path to the Exile is like the perfect game for him because it gives him like an
Hmm.
independent game to play alone, which he loves.
For sure. I guess on the topic of your dad, then, can you talk a little bit about how your dad used video games as an escape, and for you too, because the main topic is you. If you've ever used gaming as an escape, or if it's more just a social hobby thing you do for enjoyment.
Yeah, my dad like situation growing up wasn't amazing. He had a stepfather and who wasn't the nicest guy. He still isn't. I don't love him. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna be honest. He's my grandfather, but he's not a great guy. Generally there was a lot of turmoil in the house, from what I
Sure.
understand, and I think video games were an easy thing for him to basically get away from everything else. I don't think I've ever really talked in depth with him about it because generally he keeps to himself about his at home life. Most of what I've heard has come from my mom telling me,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's confirmed it, but he doesn't like actively contribute details a lot of the time. Basically, it was like a situation where as soon as he can move out, he moved out, which
Sure.
to this day I think still bugs my grandparents on that side. But like I said, they have their own demons to deal with rather than that. So I think for him, it really did give him a place to be like alone and like focus on something else. Because uh, my dad was like really smart, but kind of a slacker.
Mm.
Uh, I definitely picked up some of his slacking tendencies a little bit. I'll admit it's a little lazy sometimes, especially with
That's
studies.
okay.
But I think in video games were good for him in that regard to give him something to do on the side. So I think that's why he still plays is because it's a big thing. Even nowadays, when he gets frustrated or times are tough at work, like he'll come home and he'll be like, I just want to relax tonight, and he'll go into his office and he'll play games, and
Mm.
whether that's Xbox or the PC. He plays both, and
Sure.
it's a big thing for him. Then to transition it back to me, I think, yeah, I definitely see video games as an escape. Especially when I was younger. That's not completely fair. When I was really young, I think I was like really happy, like stupidly
Mm.
happy kind of thing. You know, like I was like one of those like really go lucky kids. So like video
As
games are
most
pure
kids are.
enjoyment. Oh yeah, I was like, I had a great life at home. I'm not gonna pretend I didn't. It was great. And then I think somewhere around like middle school, I got hit with like that really like young depression. It runs in my
Mm.
family, unfortunately. My mother specifically had really bad depression in like high school, middle school, college,
Mm-hmm.
and it was she said when and basically she was always worried that it would transfer down to me and my sister because there's always those studies that like it's genetic in depression and things like that,
Yep.
and it hit me out of nowhere around like seventh grade, and I got hit bad like I couldn't like eat food. Like I just, and I remember like things were getting really bad. I ended up going to therapy for a while, which it took a therapy's amazing. That's why I'm going into social work. It's similar vein. I love it. It's truly, I think, something that everyone should do. If you're watching this and like times are tough, just I recommend therapy to everyone. Honestly, there's no harm in trying, especially if you can get it
Hmm.
covered by your insurance. If you don't have insurance, bit of a harder situation, I'll admit.
For
But
sure, it's expensive.
oh yeah, but if you can make it work, I recommend it. So that took a lot of time. That took like I was with in therapy for like 6 7 years, and like it was like a slow
Mm,
process, but like it got better, and by the end of it, like you just worked magic, I think. And in that time when things were really tough around me, video games were like a huge outlet. Like I think almost like the idea of I was so frustrated with things in my life and with myself that like being able to be frustrated at a video game was like a good transference, kind of like pull up like a hard video game, or like go online and be like, my team is so bad, just to myself. And I'd be like, it was nice, like it just really would get your mind off of it. Like I think back
mm.
then, what was I playing? I was playing Madden, actually. I was a huge
Nice.
football fan. I haven't played Madden in forever, but I used to love playing that. I remember I was a part of the like Ultimate Team community, which is like you'd build up your team with like trading card packs and stuff like that. I was on the Twitter community and stuff like that. I did trading with people, all that. It was really a lot of fun. It was a huge way to distract myself. It was great. Definitely would never do it again. Madden's a terrible game, to be honest. EA is a terrible company, but at the time it was really good, and I really enjoyed it. I think after that, and then when I got into high school is when I started picking up League of Legends and MOBAs. But yeah, in the end of middle school was all Madden, and I really enjoyed it. I think, but yeah, I would say the video games had a huge impact on helping me when my mental health like severely plummeted back in the day, more so than now. I think.
I'm glad. Sorry.
No,
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, that was
Go
my
ahead.
bad. I like I said, I had a last minute thought. I was thinking like I'd say nowadays though, I definitely do it more for enjoyment than escape than previously.
Yeah, that's perfect transition to what I was going to ask you. You said so the depression hit you in about seventh grade.
Yeah,
You were in therapy for 6 to 7 years, and I'm hoping you got better. You feel better?
I do feel a lot better. Yeah. Had a bit of a relapse back in sophomore year of college, but so I went to
Mm-hmm.
therapy for I went to my old therapist for like 6 or so months. Like I was going home on weekends, stuff like that, just to like do checkups. But then after 6 months, we stopped that, and things have been pretty good since then.
Yeah. So I guess in the past 2 years, when I guess even the past 2 years, because COVID has happened, I know there's a lot of like still extra stressors. Mental health is never a one and done like fix.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm sure that it's a continuous process for you,
Mhm.
as it is for many other people too. I guess you said that you use gaming a lot for enjoyment right now. So how have you seen it evolve? Like your usage of video games evolve from when you started playing at age 3 to your current day.
Yeah, I think like I said, when I was just young, I was just so enamored by watching my dad play these games. I thought it was so cool, especially like I think I thought watching him play MMOs was the coolest thing because he'd like talk to his friends online and they'd be like coordinate these like raids. Like I'd watch him run like classic WoW back in the day, and I thought it was like so cool. Like I nothing was cooler. I had like he'd be in his office chair, and I'd pull up like a stool to the left of him. I like squat on it. I'd be like whoa, and like some nights like if I couldn't sleep, I like sneak down at like 10:30, be like, can I watch one raid? He'd like find one raid, and I just sit there.
Mm.
And it was the coolest thing. I could barely tell what was going on, of course, but like it was amazing. I
Yeah.
think like it was like this wonder for me, almost like that could be like me one day kind of thing. I just loved it. I think after a while, I once I started playing the games myself and I got older, it became really social for me. A lot of my friends and I would like interact talking about video games like Pokemon, stuff like that. Like just these things that like it made life a lot easier. And like it was like an easy topic to conversate with when meeting friends. And then we would when we go to each other's houses, we played the games together. Like DSs were a big thing back when I was in like late
Mhm.
elementary. So you like go play our DSs at like lunch, stuff like that. It's all this really good stuff. I think for me it was really social and just for fun. I never really saw it as the need to escape through it as much
Mm.
as I think like I had a lot of good stuff I could do outside of it. But I think moving forward, as soon as things got really bad, I found that like it was a proper escape, especially because one thing I had really bad when I was at my worst back when I was younger, with seventh gradish, was I really couldn't sleep a lot of the time. I'd have like really, really bad dreams to the point where like I like conditioned myself to be afraid to fall asleep.
Mm.
And I'd have to play games like to fall. I'd like like to play like a calming game or read a book. And one of those two would, and once I started to feel like calm and like tired, then I'd pass out. Eventually, I think I started using melatonin and stuff
Mm.
like that to help me as well. But yeah, for the longest time, it was really hard to like go to sleep. I remember, and that was when I really think I started using it as an escape. I would say was to get out of that phase, and then I basically found a competitive drive through games. I'd say it started with Madden for the most part. Like before I played Madden, like when I played games like Halo with my dad, or like I even played a little WoW with my dad and stuff like that. Like those were just for pure enjoyment. Like I didn't really have a goal. And then
Hmm.
once I realized that like I realized I was very competitive with games later on. Like once I started like climbing the leaderboards on Madden a bit, and I was like I'm actually pretty good at this game for how young I am. And then I transitioned into like CS:GO for a few months. I was awful at that game. It was a little fun, but like I was really, really, really bad. And then once I discovered League of Legends, I realized like my competitive drive, I felt it like really then and there. And I was also pretty damn bad at League of Legends. Still not amazing to be honest. Better for sure, but and I think that carried me through high school because in high school I basically did three things. I went to school, I rode 7 days a week on the crew team, and then I played video games. It was League of Legends most of the time. That's literally all I did. Like and then sleep, I guess. But like there was that rotation. Like I basically and I do my homework in school always. I would never do
Mm.
it at home. I was that kid. Like I'd be like going to my next class, finishing up those math problems. Is a total
You were smart.
degenerate.
You were time efficient.
I was very time efficient. I had to make sure I got those video games in. To be
For
honest,
sure.
I always loved that. I played with all me and all my friends in the rowing team. We'd play league together, and it was really an enjoyable time. I remember thinking I really wanted to get into the competitive scene when I went to college because I felt like that was like the next big step up. Because high
Sure.
school esports weren't really a thing because at all. Like they don't really exist. They're getting better about it now. I know for sure.
Hmm.
But back when I was there, nah, there was nothing really. And I remember I found like on YouTube, there's Boston University versus like Harvard, and they like, have you seen
Yeah.
that game? You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
I love it. You know,
Yeah.
like you got yellow on like Heimerdinger back
Yep.
Bible. It's like I found that series and I was enamored by it. I thought it was the coolest thing. I was like, whoa, look at this
Mm.
professional broadcast. Like this is the school I'm gonna go to. Like it'd be so cool. And I was so hyped. And I think that's back when it became like fun for me again. Fun but
Mm.
also competitive. Like I was driven, but like it was no longer about like I wasn't really escaping for anything. I was just like I want to play because it's fun and I want to win because winning's fun. I mean, at the end of the day, and it wasn't really until then things got bad again sophomore year that I realized like that this game could be an escape again. Like
Mm.
I think I remember I was on a team with can I say their names? I think I can, right? Should I not? Should I
Uh.
not? I say
eh,
I had a team. I had a team of good friends I played on sophomore year.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when I got to play with them, it was basically an escape. Like I did have my like current concerns and worries about all these things just would go away. And I
Mm.
get to focus on a goal with them and it was great. I think and I'm good friends with most of them to this day too. Good I mean and they I think that team was widely responsible for a lot of the improvements in my mental health back then. I think if I didn't have that team, I would not have been able to because basically when I first had my issues back in seventh grade, it took like at least like 3 years minimum before I felt like significantly better. Like I was
For
like
sure.
from like seventh to freshman year, I was miserable like most of the time. Like
Hmm.
I put on like a happy face at school and stuff like that because I didn't want to be like the loner kid who's sad all the time. But like
Yeah.
it was tough. Like I remember like it was like it felt really fake. Well, like it was hard and like it really was that like old cliche of like you fake it until you make it. Like I kept
Hmm.
faking I was happy, and then eventually I just was happy. Like I can't I like there's no like day where it just all got better. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
after a while I just realized I guess I'm happy again. Like I don't know why, but I am. And then I rolled with it up until I collapsed again. And then it only took me like six like 4, 5, 6 months to put the pieces back together, which was like
Hmm.
insane compared to the first time.
Sure.
So it showed my personal growth a lot, I felt like. And I guess like even more so than the first time, I really felt like video games were at like the crux of my improvement. That in therapy. Therapy is always really great. I will always commend therapy for how great it is. And I think after that, I wanted to stay involved in like the competitive scene here at school because I was like, this is so cool. And I ended up being a part of like the e-board with you, of course, and it was a lot of fun. I got to take care of some of the teams, and I really enjoyed that too a lot. Just being able to help bring these teams together and work with them was a lot of fun, and I worked all the way up until like now, and we just wrapped up our last season of CELO where we brought together a team of like 3 freshmen that did really amazing. I was really proud of them, uh, and now they're starting tournaments up, and I think generally I really like I said, I think competitive League of Legends has been a really good thing for me, especially now during COVID. Like
Hmm.
you said yourself a little while ago that COVID's been like a really rough spot for a lot of people,
It has
and like
been.
mental health's been extra bad. But not to brag, but I think my mental health's been actually really good during
Good
COVID.
for you.
And I think a lot of it has to do with that I put all my time and energy into a lot of these like League of Legends. Like I've been building this team for like a year. Like even started the summer, we were grinding, watching VODs, coaching, 3 scrim blocks a
Hmm.
week, all this stuff, all this extra energy I have to put into keeping the team rolling, finding scrim blocks was like a beautiful way to like just divert all my extra time and attention. Like rather than just like sitting around and only watching a show or grinding one game alone, like having this like sense of community with a team I think was a really big deal. And yeah, I think like even more so than ever, like I was like I said, you congratulated me. I was like really proud of myself. I was like, at first I was like, is it gonna be a long time home? Like stuff might go wrong. Like I had a few problems along the way. I had to do a lot of like my parents made us refurnish our old basement, and
Mm.
it hadn't been touched in like 17 years. It was like spiders, rats. It was the worst. It was truly the worst. That tested a little bit of our me and my sister's patience. We were
For
losing it.
sure.
That was way before the fall. I think ever since I got back on campus in the fall, like even when I went home for winter break, nothing but great vibes even at home. Family's been doing
Hmm.
great. Like because it was like weird because like we hadn't ever interacted the four of us in the house consistently since I was basically a senior in high school. Because even when I was home in the summer. Me and my sister both worked like full time jobs, so it was like we'd have weekends together, but we were never like there all the time, all four. Which I think
Right.
a lot of people are experiencing throughout the world, where like they're not used to their whole family being home all at once,
Mm.
interacting the whole day, and it was a weird transition, but we got through it, so I'm happy with that.
As you should be. A tight knit family in COVID's an exceptional support system.
Oh yeah,
So, um, sorry, give me like 1 minute to like catch up.
no, you're good.
I'm
You're
trying
good.
to.
I talked for a while here. It's okay.
It's all good. That's what I like hearing you talk. I guess the one thing that stood out to me was, I guess your usage of gaming during COVID. You talked about a lot about how like it lets you divert your excess energy and time to something you're really passionate about. So it sounds like something gaming to you is an escape when your mental health isn't as stable as you would like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say healthily stable, but like when you're not feeling too great,
Yeah.
and but like when you're feeling a bit better, it really is just a source of like passion, community, something that like you do for a specific reason. It's not something you just kind of like mindlessly do. You're not just sitting on the weekends and you're like, oh, I have homework to do, but I'm just gonna play video games because it's just more fun per se.
Yeah.
But it's something you do with a cause. So does that sound about right?
Yeah. 100% it is.
And then I wanted to touch upon. It sounds like a lot of your competitive talent like kind of bloomed throughout your time at Boston University, from the first time you
100%.
watched to the Harvard Boston University VODs to like your coaching position now. Obviously, we know each other pretty well, but
Yeah.
for the audience who doesn't know you as well,
Mhm.
can you guys just elaborate a bit more on like your growth through BU, like the gaming aspect of it, or just the school aspect of it? If you want to talk about that too, and like from where you started to like where you are now.
Yeah, I would love to. Basically, to go all the way back, I started playing League of Legends freshman year of high school, and my friends got me into it. But they were friends who all got me into it. They were really bad. They were like max silver, like we were all silver, bronze. Like we had a ton of fun, but like if getting better was the goal, I was not with the right group of people. Realistically, like I
Right.
love them to death. My high school friends, we were all rode together. We were like brothers back then. Like when you rode 6 to 7 days a week with someone in a boat, you get really close with them. I will say, and I started to get better towards the end of high school. Like like platinum level, which is still like relatively bad, but like
Better than
compared to my
me.
friends in high school, I was like a god. Like they thought I was so good. Like, oh my god, this guy's like plat now. Like, whoa, he's insane. He's so good. And I definitely was. I wanted to. I remember being like, I have to be diamond when I get to college. Like, so I make the tryouts. And I
Mm.
remember oh my god, I don't know how I used to do it. I think, oh god, I like sunk like 2K games in the solo queue that like senior defense. Oh, it was so dragging. It's so much. Like nowadays, I play like 200 games a season max if I'm like
Mhm.
really feeling it. Like, no, I can never. I'm not a 2K gamer anymore. But and remember I had a roommate who I found who also played League of Legends, who also lived in town next door. So we decided to room together and we tried out for the team together, bot lane, and we ended up smashing tryouts. And I
Ay.
was really excited. I got put on a team my freshman year. I was so like I'd never been so excited in my life. It was so hyped. I was like on this team, it's gonna be great. And team was a borderline disaster. Like our top lane jungler were from another country and spoke very
Mm.
little English, so they were a duo and they mostly communicated amongst themselves. Our mid laner was the nicest person, had a really limited champ pool, and then me and my roommate, we ended up having some turmoil halfway through the year, so that kind of killed our playing on the team together as well. And
Mm.
this team did not want to practice. Like I always be like, hey, let's practice. They'd be like, nah,
Mhm.
forget about it. And then so we were really bad. We lost almost every game we played. Like it was terrible. I was like, oh man, maybe I'm just not cut out for this kind of thing. Like this is a
Mm.
disaster. Like should I just forget about this? But I remember there was a system through the Boston University Gaming Club called Intraleagues, where like there you'd get like it'd be only people inside BU, and they'd make like balanced teams. Like there'd be like a certain level of like each player would be worth like a certain amount of points, and you had to like average your points out to 20. So I
Mhm.
figured like I'll find a team to that and maybe have a lot more fun. And I ended up finding a team with two of my teammates who I then played next year with, and I came really close with them. And that team was way better. We weren't. I
Mm.
wouldn't say we were better, but like we'd actually try, and I felt like a sense of like community with them. I didn't feel with my first team where like nobody on that team felt like they really cared. Like it was just we were
Right.
just like going through the motions, but this team was like different. They wanted to learn and play. Like we came close with them. Felt like I grew friendships, and we were pretty good in the end. We went to the Microsoft tournament and we won it. It was so fun. We played a best of five there. It was crazy. I remember we won game five in a close fashion. It was like super hype. Like it was like small stuff in the grand scheme, but at the time it was huge for me, and
Sure.
especially for how back to when I'm used to losing literally every single game, like in amazing fashion. It felt really good. So then going into sophomore year, I decided to try out for the. By the way, I didn't think I made this specific enough. For freshman year, I tried out for the Division 2 team, not the Division 1, because I was not at the level of Division 1. So I tried out for
Mm.
Division 2, and that's the team I got on, and that's why no one really cared. Because as someone who became the comp coordinator later, I understand how hard it is to manage a Division 1 team and subsequent Division 2 teams. It's a lot to put on your plate. So I get why
Yeah.
we were kind of like left in the dust. I don't have it any misunderstanding of that at all. And then moving into the next year, I was like, I'll give it another try, and that's when I got on. Once again, I go in tryouts, stomp tryouts. I don't know why. I'm a tryout god. Don't at
You're
me.
a beast.
I'm crazy. Tryouts, forget about it. Get in the matches, but like tryouts, crazy. So we stopped tryouts with this 5-man unit, which got put together, and we decided we're going to be the team now. And we
Mm.
were good. We were way better than we had no better than we should have been for a Division 2 team. I remember that fall of sophomore year, we were like competing relatively close to the Division 1 team. We'd get like early game leads versus them. We'd play them really close. I don't think we ever actually took a game off them, but like every time we played them, we were like really close for how like widespread our ranks were between the two of us. It was pretty
Mm.
weird that we would play them that close. Uh, and like I said, this such a community with those guys, and we fought really hard. We almost went undefeated in our
Oh.
bracket. It was really good. We got second place at the BU LAN. We had like all this like we had a lot of like good stuff going for us. It was a lot of fun. Love those guys. And then I've after that year, I kind of reached the point where I realized as a player, I'm a little bit lacking in certain departments. I wasn't really like up to snuff to really like because I had improved a lot for the freshman sophomore year. Like I went from like hard stuck like mid plat to like I peaked up at Diamond 2. So like I felt
There you
like I
go.
was getting better. But at the end of the day, I still wasn't really confident in my personal abilities.
Mm,
But I think all this time on these two teams, there was like two people, one person on each team specifically I played on that was like very analytical, and we would talk a lot about the game and try to be like as on top of the meta as possible. And I started to feel really confident in my ability to read the meta in draft teams as well with all that practice I got the first 2 years. So I figured this could be a really good time to transition to like a manager esque coach position, because the one thing I did a lot for my team sophomore year was I did all the scheduling of scrims, like all the coordination. So I thought I could go into that department and be really effective for
hmm.
us as a school. And that's what I did. I went in with the intention of being like a committee member, and I was super excited for that. Push comes to shove, I ended up moving up to a chair position. So it was a bit of a leap up in responsibility, but
I
I was
remember
honestly
that.
super excited about that. Oh yeah, I
I
was pretty
remember that.
excited though. Like actually, like I remember I was playing it cool, but I was like, oh man, I'm in a chair now. I'm so cool. Like, oh my god, look at me, Joe Marino. No, but
You deserved
and
it.
I know I was super excited, and I got to put in a lot of time with the team. But I think when push came to shove, I realized it was a lot harder than I thought. Especially we had some weird systems going on. Won't go into specifics on that.
I
Forget
was
about it.
there. I was
Oh yeah,
there.
you know all the good stuff. Anyway, most people who watch this, who are in the club, will know what was going on. There's some fun stuff. It was a lot of back and forth, all this and that. So it was a little. I think my junior year was very turmoil with the team.
Mm,
We had a rough roster too. It was a ragtag group of kids for sure. It was not We were
mm.
not TSM out here or anything. Like it was a rough roster to work
Why'd you
with.
pick an NA team over any other?
I know, like we weren't SK, we weren't like prime SKT. Like
Yeah.
we had our fair share of issues we were working on. So I think that was like a trial year for me, though. I'd say like that team ended up kind of like booming. We didn't really do much in CLO. We didn't really do much in tournaments. We actually That's
Mm,
not true. We went to like some really easy tournaments at first, and we cleaned those up. But it gave us like that like false confidence. Like we thought we were so high and mighty, like we're so good, we're winning every tournament. But like we
right.
weren't going to real tournaments. So it's kind of a disservice to ourselves. We went to like easy peasy tournaments, cleaned them up, got super
Mm,
cocky, and then the moment we ran into like any real team like Northeastern or any of the other like big names around us like UMass Amherst, like they just slaughtered us. Like it wasn't even
right.
close. Like they would just 2-0 us in like two 20-minute games, and we'd be like, clearly something's wrong here. Like because we just weren't playing how we're supposed to. And I think after that wraps up, then COVID hit, and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
we're hitting the ground running. We're going into the next year. I've learned from my mistakes. We're gonna start developing the team now. So like it's like April last year, and I'm hitting like class of 2024, maybe. Is it
Yeah. It's a
2024?
2024.
All right, phew. Okay, I was like,
We're
am I getting
getting
this
old.
up? Oh, I know. You're telling me. So we hit that, like me and some of the other e-board members were like perusing through there, like control effing League of Legends video games, DMing kids. We're like, you want to play League of Legends, bud?
Did it work?
It did. We found two players through it who are now on the team as well.
There you go.
And we hit the ground running, and we started training in the summer from frame one. And I think it led to a lot of growth in the team. We didn't really do well in the summer for the most part, like, but I think that was a required period to understand and learn.
Hmm.
And that's where we got our new jungler. And then coming into the fall, we got blessed. A really high rated player transferred in and
Mm,
came in and bolstered the team a lot. So like that was kind of the final piece of the puzzle from what I saw. Like we really needed that, like, because I was feeling really good about drafting was getting a lot better for us, because one of our original issues was draft, because it was just a disaster originally, and I have been able to come in and really help draft a lot. I think
hmm.
wasn't perfect at it. It wasn't like God draft or anything. I'm not trying to brag, but
You're
I
too
definitely
humble.
it made things a lot better. And but at the end of the day, I couldn't be in the game with the team.
Right.
I'm not, because my hands don't work like they used to. Like they're old hands. Like I can't hang with the young kids anymore, Dragon. So like
Boomers.
I'm old. So like we really needed that like vocal leader in the game, and this person came in and really took over that role and did it
For sure.
phenomenally. And even then, like it was nice to have someone on the team who was smarter than me at the game. Like honestly, like I think like the best coaches surround themselves with like people who are smarter than them almost. Like it was nice to have someone to bounce things off of. And I wouldn't just get like, oh, you're right, or like, okay, sure, let's roll with it. Like, which got a little frustrating sometimes because like in this person would literally be like, you're wrong, and here's why, and then you explain to me, I'm like, oh, I am wrong. Okay, let's change it up. Let's do this instead. Like, and that was, I think that literally catapulted. We got, as soon as this person came to the team, we got so much better. Like, we went from like kind of like middle of the pack, like bad team to like insane. Like we did some roster shuffles as well. We messed around a little bit to optimize the roster. We were doing some like, but once we got like a hard 5-man core locked in around early December, we were a dangerous team. We came in, we did some good upsets in CLOL and just like a great group of guys. Like they're really young. Like I said, 3 of them are freshmen, and we brought in a good friend of mine from club as well, an old friend from back in my sophomore year to round out the team. And generally, they were a great group of guys. And like, I could talk so fondly about this. Like I'm reminiscing, like it was years ago. It's like this. They just played their last match 2 days ago. Like, but they kept me busy, and they're just a great group. And I'm really proud that like I was able to contribute to helping this group come together and improve as much as they were able to. And I'm glad that's kind of like the legacy I'm leaving, because after junior year, I was not leaving a good legacy. It was a disaster. Like team was on fire. They failed out like week 3 of groups. Like it was terrible. Like it wasn't what I wanted to leave behind at all. So I was glad that I got to come back, improve off of my past failures and shortcomings, and create a much better team moving forward. And also, it's like I said, it's been great. Like this last month flew. Like it was the CLOL month. Oh man, I can't even remember. I don't remember doing a thing this month, honestly. It was just like entire like I wake up, I basically like go to some classes, start prepping for the match of the week, start prepping for scrims, finding scrims, VOD reviewing, talking, all that stuff, and I love it. Like it's great work. I remember like I was talking to a friend, like a friend from just across the country who was big like high low league player as well, and he asked me like, "Oh, you're gonna go into coaching after this is all done?" And I was like, it'd be fun. I don't think I can, but like it was like also I think getting into like League of Legends coaching is a really like tight industry. Like it's tight knit. It's you gotta have the connections, which I don't really have, but I love it. I forgot to mention I've been coaching middle schoolers right now with a program which has been a ton of fun. I love it. They're so adorable, and I love like they have like such a wonder about the game that like a lot of like older players in the game don't have, because like I'm talking about this game like it's magical. Like if someone here hasn't played League of Legends, it's really frustrating. It's like first thing, it's very frustrating game. Like half the time you're angry, like you're like, oh my god, what's going on? Why isn't this working? Like it's not magical like I'm making it out to be. Like I found a lot of fun in it, but yeah. So generally, like if I go and play solo queue, I'll get frustrated. Even now, like when I know that like at the end of the day, like I'm not grinding to be a good like the best player anymore. Like I'm not trying to play on a team. Like I just study the game and watch it. And I still play it with my friends, but like even if I go into solo, I get frustrated. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? I'm like, come on, like so like it's a very annoying game in that fashion. So to watch these kids play, they get annoyed too, but like generally they love it. Like I think like I had like this big moment this weekend where because the problem with the coaching this semester versus last semester was the matches overlap directly with CLOL, so I've been having to do CLOL up and missing all their matches, and they've been getting crushed in their matches, and they've been really sad about it. But this week, since CLOL wrapped up a little earlier than usual, they went to their game 3, and I got to go in there and help them with their game 3 in their like series, and they won, and they were so excited. Oh, they won, and
you were the missing puzzle piece.
I know, I guess so, and they were in like the amount of like joy these kids had. Like I just watched like 6 months of hard work like kind of finish out with the team. Like we have been grinding since like September, even longer, almost 7 months of just like pure work with those guys, and they've put in everything, and we saw it kind of like come to the end. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I was always worried that like when we lost finally we'd be so sad and like devastated, but like I think the team spirits were still really high, which I loved. Like there wasn't like the sense of like we failed, like we're terrible. Like everyone was like we put in the work. Like we fought hard. Like this was the number 2 seed. Like upsetting them would have been insane. Like we should have had no chance against them realistically. Like, and we put up a really good fight in game 2. Game 1 they kind of rolled us, but game 2 we played them as tight as you could possibly imagine. Super exciting game, and I think there was just a sense of pride more so than failure.
Mm,
but also like it's still a little somber. But then going from that to like watching this middle school team I've been coaching, having it to pop off their life. These kids were so when you've lost like 5 weeks, and like it reminded me of myself freshman year when like I would lose every single game every week. Like the team wasn't improving, no one cared. And then I went to that Microsoft tournament with the new team, and we got first place.
right.
And we were so excited. We popped off. We're like, we won. We're like, we did it. We're not awful. Like, you know, it feels really good. So I saw that a bit in them, even though they're way younger. And like, it's a different scenario. But like that idea of like getting that win after so long and getting it to contrast like within hours of watching a failure and then success, like on that spectrum, really reminded me why I love esports, honestly. Like it's such a cool feeling because it feels more accessible
Mm,
than I feel like athletes have this like allure about them, like traditional sports athletes, like a football player, like a basketball player, like these like big, like insane, like feats. Like some of them are just gifted like genetically. Some of them have
sure.
worked their whole lives. Like, and you see them and you're just like you know, like so, people don't look at like LeBron James and be like, oh, I could be LeBron James. Like it's easy. Like,
Yeah.
but like I feel like there's almost this like for me at least when I was younger, when I watched like professional esports players, to be like that could be me. Like I know maybe I could be that. Like I should try. Like, but when I look at LeBron James, I'm like heck no. I'm like 5'7". Like, am I about to be LeBron James out here? Nah. Like, forget about it. Like, I'll play pickup with some friends.
Right.
Terrible at basketball, by the way. But and I think that's what I found so magical about it. And just to like climb up the like from the very beginning to like just getting introduced by a friend on an off chance, like here, just come play a game with me to this point where now I was like we were leading a team into like to like battle, I guess, against like this two
Right.
seed, and just like this journey that this one video game has taken me upon. It's been there for my with my mental health. It's been there during COVID. It was there back when I was still rowing. Like it's crazy how much like one video game can really impact your life, especially a game as awful as League of Legends.
Listen, we're not sponsored by Riot. I'm not sponsored by Riot. As much as we love League, we're not sponsored by
Oh,
Riot.
not at all.
If you want to sponsor me, Riot, by all means. I got
Go
Jump
for it. Yeah,
Burrito
hop
here.
in here. I mean, the game's great. I'm lying, but
um, okay, so it sounds like you've been on a pretty long journey with gaming from, the start of like age 3 to your depression in middle school and throughout high school, and then, becoming a competitive player in the first couple years of your college, creating your own team to like and then coaching a team, and now you're coaching middle schoolers.
oh
It sounds
yeah,
like you've done a lot with, and it's just league,
been
right?
around the block for sure.
So it sounds like you've learned a lot, not only about the game, but also about yourself.
Oh yeah.
So like I guess like what values, ethics, morals, skills have you picked up from like all of these different things?
I would say like one of the things I learned the most was like sometimes you have to making the hard decisions sometimes that coaches do
Mm,
like there's a point like I feel like when I first took the role or the job, I wanted to believe in like every player had like this like boundless potential because like when I was like that player, I believed in myself boundlessly. I was like, I can get there no matter what. Like I can make it work. But like I quickly realized that like some players at the end of the day didn't have that full potential that other players did. And I remember I had to remove a player from the team officially.
mm,
And that was a terrible experience. He was devastated. Like I felt so bad. Like it was tough. That was back in junior year, and I remember like I was the one to like meet with him and be like, we're not going to be working with you anymore. And he said stuff like, I thought we were a team. And I was like, oh man, you're going to pull the I thought we were a team on me. Like it was tough. And like, I remember that decision, but like once I did it, I was like, I got to hold true to my resolve, and I've had to bench players in critical situations and make calls. And I think like learning resolve, I'm not perfect at this. I've still had my
no one
fair
is.
share of issues with like, I sometimes don't make the call, which I know, like, sometimes you have to make a call, but it's like the hard call. Like,
Yeah,
you're going to hurt people's feelings and step on toes along the way. Like if a player's having like attitude issues, you have to talk to them. And that was always really hard for me, especially because I think in like a full esports setting, like when you get to the higher level, it becomes more of a business. But at the end of the day, like this wasn't like, this wasn't a business for me. These were like my friends, you know what I mean?
right.
Like I was like close with all of them. Like even the people I had to bench or leave along the way, they're still my friends. So like
Sure.
having to go in there and make that business decision with your friends was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think even now at the end of it all, like there was a few times where like I had to go and do stuff and I kind of like fell a little short. I kind of like lean on my support staff a bit to do some things for me. Like someone would offer to go talk to someone for me. I'd be like, okay, go do that. Like, and like, even though in my head, I know I should be the one to go talk to them, but they'd offer and I'd be like, yeah, that's a lot easier than me going and doing it, to be honest.
Sure.
And so I think trying to learn that resolve, something I'm still working on to this day, because I've never been great at being the one to like deliver the bad news. Like no one wants to be that guy who says like you're falling short, or like basically be like a manager type thing where like you're not making deadlines, you're not behaving well, like you're being toxic, like this stuff, you're ruining scrim blocks by not trying this. Like it's these conversations were always awful. Like and
Hmm.
I've had them a couple times now with a couple different people, but I think that's like the biggest skill I've learned in general was that beat the mean side. I feel like it's easy to be everyone's friend. It's easy to like kind of learn the game, but like once you get to that point where it becomes more the businessy side, that's where me as a sergeant student falls a bit short. Like because I feel like I think a lot more about people's emotions than I should. Like part of like the like being a therapist is almost a bit easier because like it's some for like the most part you're on that person's side. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're there to help them, like help them grow and improve. Like you're not always gonna like yes man them or agree with them, not like no matter what. But like at the end of the day, they know you're on your side and you kind of know that you're on their side. But like
Right.
at some point when you have to like communicate with these people and like it reaches this point where they realize you're not on their side anymore, and especially when you've had this friendship with them before and you've had like great moments, like you've gone out to eat with these people back in junior year, and like you've become close with these guys, and then to be the one to be like you're not going to play this game, or I'm going to
Right.
remove you for this next game, or the team wants you removed realistically,
They're hard
that
decisions.
that felt bad. I
Yeah.
hated doing it, and I mean it felt even worse for them probably, so I can't even complain, but it was hard. And I definitely that's the part I'll miss the least. Like
Mhm.
I'll miss the wins, I'll miss the VOD review sessions, I'll miss like draft prep, I'll miss all that, all the fun stuff. But like there's the hard stuff which sucks, which
Yeah.
I was not good at, that I had to try to get good at. So that's definitely the biggest thing I learned, I'd say.
Well, it sounds like you're doing. It sounds like you're gotten a lot better at it. It sounds like you're gonna do better than me at it for a bit longer too. But
Yeah,
as you
it's
said, like it's gonna be important for your therapy sessions. I know a lot of
oh yeah.
times you will be on their sides, but at some
Sometimes you reach a point. I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah.
So a couple more points before we wrap up. I want to specifically bring up your gaming experiences in high school,
Mhm.
and the thing that caught my attention was that your rowing team were
Yes.
all gamers. And so, usually the gamer stereotype is this chubby dude with like a hand in like one hand in like Cheetos, the other hand with like a Mountain Dew or
Mountain Dew.
something
Hell
in
yeah.
their mom's basement. They're just like don't go out, don't see sunlight, don't know how to talk to people. But clearly, like you're not like that at all. It seems like you're very social. You've got great leadership skills. You know what you want to do with your life. And obviously, in high school, your teammates were all rowers, and so like you guys are actually pretty hardcore athletes. I know rowing's not an easy sport,
Oh, I was
especially
in much
because
better shape back then. I'm not gonna lie. It's
you look great. You look
oh,
great.
thank you. You're embarrassing me.
But I guess like to address the media stereotype of gaming a little bit, like do you think it's true that gamers are these people just sitting in their mom's basement, or do you see them as very different people?
I think I see it very differently now. Like I think the biggest thing I learned when going to college is like there was always like that stereotype that like it's mostly guys who do video games. Like it's like a very like male dominated like area, but I've definitely like because when I in high school we were all guys. Like no girl played games with us realistically.
Yeah.
Like it was all the guys. Like there was a because like the rowing team was split. We had a women's team and a male team that were all very close. Like we were like they call us a cult. We weren't really a cult. But, like it was what it was. Because like we when you have to spend 7 days a week together, realistically, like you become really close.
Right.
And we didn't really interact because like when you have to basically anything that wasn't school was crew. So like that was
Mm.
our entire lives. So we did everything together so that we basically became a family. And none of the girls on the team played games, but all the guys did. And we played everything from like League of Legends to like Civilization. Like we do all these crazy like commitment games, and we loved it. But I would say that like for the most part, the stereotype is that like it's like this guy in his basement. But I've seen it very differently. I think there are people like that, but a lot of them mostly stay like anonymous, keep to themselves. I think gaming is at its best when it's with it's like there's two ways to game. I've always seen. There's like these people who reach out to these communities and they make like these online friends and become close that way. And there's like the more in person, like you strengthen your friendship with your in like IRL friends and like through gaming, which is how I've done it for the most part. I haven't made too many friends online gaming. I made like more now in college, but like when I was in high
Hmm.
school, everyone I played with I knew in person pretty much. I
Sure.
did not reach out to like I didn't like go to communities or anything like that. It was like my close friends and we strengthened our friendship that way. But I've definitely seen it the other way, where in college I've seen like people be really close and like have meaningful like friendships with people like across the country, across the world. I've interacted with way more people now. I think college widens everything. Like now, like I went from like playing games with like zero girls, like now like I'd say like 25-30% of the people I play with are girls, and like and they're like and it's awesome. Like I love it. Like I think it's more fun the more diverse it is. Like at the end of the day, like as well, I think like when you at the end of the day when you bring all guys together, you kind of perpetuate this like this culture which isn't as good. And I think like
Hmm.
having more diversity in girls in group gaming groups is a really good thing for everyone. I think it makes things a lot more it feels more mature to some degree as well. Like I feel like because at the end of the day, like it is what it is. Guys behave differently when girls are around, for the most part. Like
True.
they're usually more respectful, more like reasonable, which is nice because I think I never really loved the like dude bro culture. Like people like the fields we're in, like the gamer culture has always been they throw around like slurs, like it's nothing, like these words, and I've never liked it. Like I definitely went along with it when I was younger, when I knew less and was not as like emotionally mature. But like nowadays, when people throw on the R word, it's like
Mm.
I hear it. I'm just like, come on, man. Like depending on who I'm around, I'll try to call them out sometimes, but it's hard. And like I said, confrontation, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not great. And I definitely feel like when girls are around, people are more mature with their language and more responsible, which I like too. So it's nice. I think generally I definitely think that's the thing I like the least about gaming is like that culture that it kind of like enables where like people like there's this one insult that I can't stand, Dragon. If someone refers to their teammates as autistic,
Mm.
I hate that. That is like it pulls me out of the game immediately, and I'm like, you can't be serious, like on like, or like when people are telling each other to like kill themselves in this video game, I'm like, really, like though that stuff it bugs me so much. Like I've worked with people now that I'm in this field, and I've seen like people at the brink of their lives, like just even like these words, like people throw them around like they have no meaning, but like they have such like a huge impact on certain people. Like the R words, I'm not even gonna say it. I can't even bring myself to say it. I'm sorry, but
Sure.
like you
That's
know what I'm
okay.
talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And like those words like hurt people so badly. Like it's literally like like the effect it has. Like it's ruined these people's lives to some degree. Like they go around, they get called this word because of how they were born or because of something that happened to them when they were younger, and like it and then the fact that everyone just throws around like the most casual insult in the world, or
Mm.
like referring to someone as autistic in a negative fashion when that's just literally their lives. Like they were born this way, like, and you're using it to like describe someone who's not doing well in your video game. Like it really it gets. I can't do it, and like even nowadays I see it with the young, especially the younger kids and that I game with, like the 18, 19-year olds, like the freshmen, sophomores, like they
Hmm.
use these words, and it reminds me of like when I was younger, and I just hate it. Like, I found even to this day when I go back and talk to my high school friends, they never really grew out of that phase either. Like they still use these words like that, and I'm always like, "Come on, guys!" It's like, "Oh, haha, Joe's changed," blah blah blah, and I'm like, "I guess I have, but like not really. I just was just a bit more vocal about it now." And I think that's the thing but like I guess like it gets associated with video games, but that culture like exists a lot in other sports as well, like locker room
Mm.
talk and like football, this stuff, like these players, the way they call each other things as well. Like it's just like I don't have like a solution, but I just wish it was different. Realistically, like I wish it wasn't like normalized to like be okay to like say these things and call people things, which sounds like so. I don't know. It sounds like that was like a little bit of a preaching session there, but that's I definitely roll with that. I think that's the thing I'm most ashamed of when I like bring up that I game. Like even like in my classes in Sergeant, like Sergeant is almost nobody plays video games in Sergeant. Like
Mm.
nada. Like it's like we brought up like we read an article about Fortnite in class and everyone talked about video games. It's like they were like the spawn of the devil. It's like, oh my god, this one kid I know plays video games and his life sucks. And I'm just like, and I'm sitting there like, who here plays video games? And I'm like, and there's like a class of 120. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm like, really? And the teacher like asked me a question, and I was honest. I was like, yeah, like the call, like it's like I was like demonizing my own major for playing video games. It felt so terrible, but like, so it feels a little weird to be stuck between it sometimes because like all the gamers are like business students, comp sci especially. Like I feel like 50% of the gaming club is like comp sci engineers type of deal. Like
hard
it's
stuff.
like that's the field you get from. Like there's only one other person I know in the gaming club who's even in sergeant. So like it's crazy. I definitely wish it was different. Like I don't know, like this like it's just weird how like it's like I hang out with so many people who game, my family and everyone. Like I forget how poor people's perceptions are of video games. Like the idea of violence in video games. Like I'm gonna be real. Like I played some somewhat violent video games when I was like a bit younger. I've never done anything violent. I don't know. Never. No. Squeaky clean record. I've never I've never even thrown a fist at someone before. Like I've never gotten into a fight. Like I it never maybe it contributed to my mental health. I can't say for sure, but it definitely did not make me violent. It's like this idea that like if you like kids play violent video games, they're gonna go hurt people. Maybe I've seen the research. I've read some articles. It seems to be there could be some minor effects, but for the most part, this idea of like if I let my kid play Call of Duty, he's gonna go shoot someone. It's not gonna happen. Like that's just not how it works. Like GTA does not make people like run over people with cars. It just it's fantasy at the end of the day. Like it's like that's like it's almost the same as like saying if you watch a movie you're gonna go do stuff you see in a movie. Like nobody thinks that. Like granted, I understand you have the control in a game more so than in a movie, but at the end of the day, I don't see it. Like I've never like met or seen a cleaning cut case where we see like a murder in the news or like a manslaughter and they're like this guy played violent video games and that's the main cause. Like it feels like it's just I think the biggest thing I've seen is it causes kids to be a bit more irritable, but that's and definitely the language. I think if I was a parent, if a parent told me I don't want my kids to talk like a gamer, I think I might get kind of stuck. I'd be like, you know what, that's actually a valid point, but this like the arguments they make for me, they don't make sense. Like I want my kid to be social. It's like, well, yeah, video games are social at the end of the day. Like it's you socialize with your friends. Like especially now during COVID, it's amazing. Like parents should be thanking that this exists. Like you don't have to your kid doesn't have to go outside. He can, well, you should get some fresh air, but like don't like go interact with people outside. Like when the pandemic spreading, you can just go online and get your fix there. But yeah, but like this, just the way like games do make kids talk in a way that's like repulsive, to be honest. Like, and even I see in the middle schoolers, I have to correct them sometimes. I'm like, come on, guys, like it's not cool. But in the end of the day, like I'm the older kid. Like they go and they talk to their middle school friends. They throw their slang around. Like, oh, I have like. When I was in like 6th, 7th grade, I had such a potty mouth. Like I played Call of Duty with my friends and we'd swear over the comms like all day long. My mom would be like, where do you learn these words? I'm like, I don't know, my friends say it. Like I say it now. It's like, so I don't exactly know how to fix it. This is just me ranting that it exists, I guess. I wish I had like a elegant solution, but I honestly don't.
That's like what 21, 22. There's no way you're gonna solve
entire
culture. As like of what you said, it's not just gamers. It's like locker room talk, all different sports. It's perpetuated a lot in toxic masculinity too. So like it exists. But I think so. The last serious topic we'll cover before we start. I'll have like two more casual, fun questions for you at the end.
Okay.
Is that in your class in Sergeant, like three people raising their hand when asked who play video games, and then them being like, as you said, like the spawn of Satan or something.
Yeah.
What do you think that, or like as you said, like video games cause violence, so there's a shooter you can play video games. What do you think that comes from, and how do we change that? Do you think it's accurate? Why do you think people are still stuck in that mindset, even though a lot of research has shown it isn't like that? And even though I guess more and more people are playing video games, that change of mindset of like gaming isn't necessarily bad in all facets still remains pretty rare. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
So like why? Also your mental health, your I guess prospective social work, profession. So you got a lot of psychological thoughts in your head. So let me know.
I would say one thing I'll tackle it one at a time. So I think that culture exists because it's convenient. Like at the end of the day, like when things are wrong with your child, the first thing you do is look for excuses at the end of the day. I think that's the same reason why everyone believed for so long that vaccines were causing autism, because like parents would
Mm,
get their kids would get diagnosed with autism, and their parents would be like, "What happened? What's wrong?" And then they just look for anything to explain it, other than like at the end of the day that it just happened. Like people, they don't want to accept this, so like it was so convenient that like, oh, the vaccines did it. Like, oh my god, the government did this to my kid. Why would they do that? I hate this. And then
right.
you roll with it and it's easy. And then of course, like the only article was disbanded. Like the guy lost his license. Like it was all made up completely. But so I think it's the same thing when like if you let your kid play video games and you don't control it properly, like you're not monitoring it, like making sure things are good. Like it's sort of like the same thing when you let your kid run wild on YouTube. Like if you don't,
Mm,
like YouTube is a dangerous place. Like if you let your kid do whatever he wants on there, he's gonna come back a little messed up. Like at the end of the day, like or a
okay.
little too old for his age. Like there's a lot of adult content on there, and I think it's the same thing in video games where like some parents don't police it enough, or like even might even be anything with the games at all. Like their kid just has attitude issues and they're struggling in parenting him, and they're like they turn to this video games as the problem, and then they take away the video games, and guess what? The kid's using the video games as a way to like cope with his problems. Boom, you take that away, things are only going to get worse for him. And
Right.
so I think like the reason it's been around for so long is convenience at the end of the day. Like
Mm,
I will say definitely there's been some research that's proved that like aggressiveness is increased by certain video games, but I think that's pretty much the most that's been rooted in actual evidence. And at the end of the day, like I would weigh if I think if a kid's struggling, it could you should probably look for more professional help than just blaming video games. Like therapy, even at a young age, is so. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna advertise therapy again. Even at a young age, it's amazing. Like it really,
mm,
CBT is great. I think it has. I hate the culture. Like I mean, I remember when I first was gonna go to therapy, I was so ashamed. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to therapy. Like
mm,
I'm the worst. Like why am I like this? Like what's wrong with me? Like if my friends knew, they think I'm awful. And then like I got there, and then like eventually I was like, why is this so bad that I would just go here and talk to this guy for like an
right.
hour a week? Like it's great. And I think, of course, I didn't outright say it, but I think that is my experiences when I was younger is what brought me into this field. Like I realized how important this was. I like think I owe my like I don't owe my life, but like I'd say like I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for therapy and mental health, like a support system. So I kind of have made it my like goal to like give that back to the community to some degree. Like I want to like to me my therapist was like my like basically my hero, and I kind of want to be like
Mm,
that for someone else. Like I want to know that I'm helping someone else with their life. So I think that's one of the big things with that for me. And I think what was the second part of this question? I kind of got like what the convenience part. There was two parts to it though. I forget the other part.
oh, even though like times are changing and gaming is becoming more
Mm-hmm.
popular, more widely accepted, um, I guess a lot of our peers still don't see gaming as very positive.
Yes.
It's like why is like there's a difference between parent-child relationship and then peer-to-peer relationship. Like why do our peers still think that gaming is bad? Or like why is it looked down like we're called nerds, we're like geeks, and like that's like like frowned down upon?
I think it's a lack of understanding more than anything. Like I don't think
Mm,
they fully understand, and I think that's partially from like the fault of the community itself, because like we perpetuate this like bad stereotype that like we like potty mouths, we like flame each other, like we're toxic, like so I get it. Like from look outside looking in, it does kind of look like that. Like it looks like generally bad things come from video games, but like until you're in the community and you see all the good it does, I don't think you can fully understand the like the positive impact it has on people. And I guess that's the best way to put it. Like because all these people who demonize video games, they either don't like video games, they've never even tried video games. Like they don't
mm-hmm.
really get it. Like, and I'm the same way about certain things as well. Like there's certain shows I haven't watched where I just don't get it. Like I don't get The Bachelorette. I don't get what's fun about it. I guess it
Mm-hmm.
looks weird and dumb to me, but like so people love and swear by it. It's so fun for them, and it's a big experience. Like they get involved, and it's something to like devote their time to. So at the end of the day, I respect it. But I think a lot of our peers don't see like they don't see the good it can do, I guess is
Mm,
what I'm getting at from this super roundabout way, where like for me, like it helped me through some of the roughest patches in my life. Like it was like an outlet. It's been able to keep me going through this. I know certain kids in like even abusive households that could turn to video games as like a small escape away from their lives. Like sort of with my dad, where like his home life was not great. It's very suboptimal, and video games where he could pour his energy and like it's like an escape. It's like movies for some people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I guess like I can't see like if you understand why movies are great, I don't understand how you can't see why video games are like good for people as well. To me, they're almost like the same thing in a different way. Like it's still like digital media, like it's still blue light, like you're watching something, like it's not a
Right.
book. And but I guarantee you all those people who are like condemning video games would be like, oh, I love movies, I love TV, I binge Netflix. It's like, okay, but then what's the difference? Like one's
Right.
even more social than the other. Like that's where I fail to see the they say like rots your brain. It doesn't do that, of course. Like there's no evidence against that. Like too much blue light can be bad for you, granted. I think the glasses, I've been meaning to get one of those, like honestly,
The
for how
tinted
much.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, those they look really silly, but like they're actually really good for you. So I honestly might do it. Yeah, I think that's my take on it. I'd say it's lack of understanding plus it's easy. Like I think it's easy to just say something's bad. Like for the longest time, I was the same way about other things. Like I wouldn't know something, so rather than like actually like try to figure it out or get into it, just like, oh, it's dumb, I don't like it. Like it's that easy. Like once you do that, you put in zero effort and you're done. But
Right.
like you're missing the complete context all the way through when you do that. So and that's how I feel.
That's a great answer. I'll be sure to mark that down. Write that down. Don't patent that.
No patents. It's all yours, Dragon. It's all yours.
All right. To wrap up, I have two more things I want to ask. The first one is, what is your current favorite video game, and why?
Oh man, I remember when I was in freshman year of high school. Because I hated biology so much, I tried to write a list of my top 10 video games I've ever played, and it was so hard. Like I'll give you a couple answers. I
Sure.
think Halo 3 is the game that got me into video games. Like, if it wasn't for Halo 3, I probably wouldn't play video games at all. Like, that game was so
Mm,
fun for me. I played it with my dad. Like, I loved it. I think League of Legends is like the game that brought me into the competitive scene and really opened that door. And that's probably the game that got me through some of my worst times. So I
mhm.
think as much as I hate the game, I love it too. I think it's truly done really good things for me. Those two definitely are the first two that immediately would come to my mind when I say like games. But like I really do love like those single player style games, like the Final Fantasies. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I love that
Mhm.
stuff. I've been playing Final Fantasy 14. It's been a ton of fun. So I have really good things to say about that. I also really huge Star Wars fan. There's a lot of Star Wars. Star Wars Battlefront 2. That's the game I play with
Mm.
my friends a lot. The original one, of course, not the new one. New one's trash. The OG one,
Okay.
that game,
Mhm.
I was one of my favorite games. I played that for so long. I'd say those three. I think Final Fantasy I love, but I can't really put it up there. I would say League, Halo, and Battlefront 2. Like the three games that I think had the biggest impact on me as a gamer,
Mhm.
and are my favorite games as well. That was the question. So yeah.
And then to wrap up, I'm gonna basically give you the floor. If you could share one message to either parents, to gamers, to people, to your peers who don't game, what would that message be about video games?
Um, I think the biggest thing I would say is how I think there should be more comparisons of video games to a more traditional sport style of things. I think, of course, the biggest difference out the gate, because I'll leave it that because the first thing people will say is, but there's no physical exercise in video games, and that is correct. I'm not going to argue against that. Like, that is true. But I don't think parents put their kids in sports only for physical exercise. And if they
That's
are,
true.
they're missing out a lot. I think you learn a lot from being on a team in terms of like working with each other. Like I said, on, I went from like, because I don't think I mentioned earlier, but I was also like, I was the captain of the crew team back then as well. So like I had that leadership position originally as well, where I would like try to lead the younger kids and stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
think I learned a lot of really valuable life skills from that. I'd almost argue I learned more from coaching a league team here at college than I did from coaching or being a captain of that team back in high school. I think the ideas of leadership, cooperation, like working as a team is so like I'm watching like these middle school players grow into a team when they did nothing but bicker initially. Like these are kids that go to school together too, like they're all in the same class and they didn't some of them didn't even like each other beforehand and they're becoming closer
Hmm.
and learning to work together. I think like the idea of cooperation in these games is so massive, like in the social community, and you can network. Plus, like, I'll be real, video gaming is pretty good for networking. Like, it's not bad. Like, you meet a lot of people, you learn some things here and there. I think it's great. I the most actually, I can quickly round back. I actually, one of my rowing friends who I played video games with, his aunt is a professor here at BU,
Mm,
and she toured me back at BU when I was a senior, and I had class with her here in Sargent as well, and she ended up getting me my job now. So like basically someone I became close with through gaming back in high school ended up being a connection for me to get a job down the line,
right.
which is pretty crazy. And I think the value, like parents just look at video games as you mentioned. I think you led off today a while back saying it's like a waste of time, like it's pointless, and I think that's just an ignorant statement. Like it's not. Like I think you have to control how to use much like all things with children. Like
For
I don't
sure.
think like you don't give your kids free reign of TV. Like you're not like here's an R-rated movie, go for it. Like you have to control what your kid consumes. And I was controlled and I hated it. I complained. I was like, I want to play more games, Dad. He's like, education first, son. Like you know how
Mm,
it is. Like in that game is too gory or too much swearing. We're not gonna play that. And
mm,
that kind of stuff. And I think he was in the right. Like at the time, I was so spiteful about it, but like he did right by me. And I think if you, as a parent, you put in the effort to controlling the intake of video games, it can be amazing at what you can achieve and what you'll see your kid achieve. But I do also agree with the also counter argument of it's a toxic community to some degree, and I think
for sure.
that's something that can be improved from the ground up with the younger generation. I think that's the one thing that this middle school coaching job is they're trying to promote a more healthy gaming environment, which is nice, and I think that is huge. I think it's ambitious and probably it's hard, but I think like especially the younger kids learn the right from the wrong younger. It can try to instill. I think my parents did a good job of that, and I think that's why I am like I am now. I guess like I
Hmm.
think like nature, the nurture side of things. So I think that's huge. I think so. If you're like someone who doesn't believe video games have any worth or like waste of time or like they're just a small hobby, which I'm not discouraging. Some people it is a small hobby for. Like some people just play mobile games and for them it's a little fun. I think that's great still. I don't think you should like I don't think this idea of like a casual gamer also gets kind of like crucified inside the community, like, oh, they're so casual, like blah blah blah. That's fine. Like I think more casual gamers are good. Like video
Mm.
game companies make so much money off casual gamers. Like
Yeah.
mobile games make millions and billions of dollars. Like they make so much money off those things. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think casual gamers are good. I think more hardcore gamers are good. I think like it should be a more accepting community in general, which is of course ambitious, but I think that's pretty much my thought. I think if you're a parent and you believe it's useless, I would reevaluate
Mm.
potentially.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
We're out of time. I think we're actually a little bit over time, but that's okay.
little bit.
I really enjoyed talking today, Joe.
Had a good time.
I learned a lot, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks for having
Thanks
me
for
on.
coming.
This was a ton of fun.